Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we are cracking open the secret that's finally making blockchain technology fast enough and cheap enough for all of us to actually use. We're talking about Layer 2 solutions. Think of them as the brand new express lane for a digital world that's been stuck in a major traffic jam for way too long.
So, you've probably heard it a million times. Blockchain is revolutionary, it's the future of everything. But if you've ever actually tried to use it for something, you might have hit a pretty big wall, right? Transactions can feel like they take forever, and they can cost an absolute fortune. So what gives? Why is this supposed future tech so often stuck in the slow lane? Okay, let's get right into it. The core of the problem, the reason for all this frustration, comes down to this fundamental challenge that every single blockchain has to deal with. It's a famous concept in the space called the Scalability Trilemma, and it forces developers to make some really tough choices.
And this right here is the heart of the matter. See, blockchains are constantly trying to balance three critical things. They need to be secure from attacks, they need to be decentralized so no single person is in control, and they need to be fast. But here is the massive catch. You can basically only pick two. It's like trying to build the perfect video game character. You can be super strong and tough, but you're probably not going to be very fast. Bitcoin, for example, it's incredibly secure and decentralized, but man, it moves at a snail's pace.
And wow, this slide really puts that speed problem into perspective. Just look at these numbers. Bitcoin can handle maybe 7 transactions a second. Ethereum, a little better, at around 30. But then you look at something we use every day, like Visa. We're talking about tens of thousands. That's not just a small gap, you guys. That is a massive canyon that blockchain absolutely has to cross if it's ever going to be part of our daily lives.
And this bottleneck isn't just about waiting around. When the network gets busy, it creates this massive bidding war just to get your transaction through. And that causes the fees, what people call gas, to just skyrocket. You could be looking at $50 or more just to do one simple thing. That prices out almost everybody and makes whole categories of apps totally impractical from the get-go.
So, if the main blockchain, what we call Layer 1, is a totally gridlocked highway, how in the world do you solve the traffic jam? Well, you don't tear down the whole highway and start over. Instead, you build a super fast express lane right on top of it. And that, right there, is the big idea behind Layer 2.
Now this is the really critical point. Layer 2s are these secondary systems that run on top of the main blockchain. They handle a huge bundle of transactions off-chain, which takes all that pressure off the main network. Then they just send a little summary back down to the main chain, which is still providing that rock-solid security and decentralization we talked about. It's literally the best of both worlds.
And let me tell you, this approach is a total game changer. All of a sudden, you're getting these massive speed boosts, and the fees, well, they become a tiny fraction of what they used to be. And this doesn't just make things better for people who are already using crypto. It unlocks the potential for entirely new industries, think gaming, social media, finance, that were just flat out impossible before. All right, so how does this magic trick actually work under the hood? While there are a few different ways to do it, the two most popular and powerful strategies for building these express lanes are known as rollups and sidechains.
Rollups are just incredibly clever. The best way to think about it is like a carpool for your transactions. So instead of having hundreds of individual cars or transactions all trying to merge onto the main highway and causing a traffic jam, a rollup bundles them all together into one super efficient bus. That one bus takes up way less space, and it massively reduces the congestion and the cost for everybody.
But of course, not all rollups are built the same. On one hand, you have optimistic rollups. They're kind of like a trust but verify system. They just assume everything's okay and post the data. Then there's this window of time, the challenge period, where anyone can double-check the work and shout if they see any funny business. On the other hand, you have ZK-Rollups. These are like the super strict security guards of the blockchain. They use some seriously mind-bending math to prove with 100% certainty that every single transaction is legit before it even gets near the main chain.
The other major strategy is something called a sidechain. So if the main blockchain is the highway, a sidechain is like a parallel service road. It's its own separate blockchain running alongside with its own rules, but it's connected back to the main highway by a secure two-way bridge. This means you can move your assets over to the sidechain, do a bunch of stuff super fast and cheap, and then move back to the main chain whenever you want. Polygon is probably the most famous example of this in action.
Okay, so all this tech talk is great, but what does it actually mean for the things people are using blockchain for right now? You know, things like DeFi, decentralized finance, which is kind of like a whole new banking system, and NFTs, those one-of-a-kind digital collectibles. Well, the impact here is absolutely massive.
Just look at this table. The difference Layer 2s make it's night and day. Seriously. Trying to create or mint an NFT on Layer 1 Ethereum could easily cost you $50 or more, and you might be sitting there for ages waiting for it to confirm. But doing that same exact thing on a Layer 2 like Polygon, we are talking about maybe 10 cents, and it's done in seconds. This completely changes the game, making it possible for any artist or creator out there to get involved without breaking the bank.
And this isn't just a hypothetical. The biggest applications in the space have already made the switch. Take Uniswap, one of the biggest decentralized exchanges out there. They moved to a Layer 2, and their fees just plummeted. And that didn't just save their users a bunch of money. It fundamentally changed how they could trade, making smaller, more frequent trades actually possible for the first time.
Blockchain gaming is another space that has been completely revolutionized by this. Games like Axie Infinity need you to make tons of little transactions all the time, buying an item, trading a character, you name it. That kind of activity is simply a non-starter on a congested Layer 1. So by moving to its own dedicated sidechain, the game created a totally seamless experience for millions of players, and a whole in-game economy was born that literally could not have existed otherwise.
So with these huge scaling roadblocks finally getting cleared out of the way, we can stop focusing on just fixing the traffic problem and start looking ahead to all the amazing new places this technology can actually take us. So, what does the future look like now?
We're already seeing the rise of these entirely new concepts, things like modular blockchains, which are designed to do one specific thing and do it incredibly well. We're seeing the ability to tokenize real-world assets. Imagine owning a tiny, tradable fraction of a skyscraper or a famous painting. And we're seeing protocols that let you move your assets seamlessly from one blockchain to another, creating a true internet of value. These are exciting frontiers that were basically just science fiction before Layer 2s.
So at the end of the day, the really crucial takeaway here is that Layer 2s aren't just some boring technical fix. They are the actual foundation for the next generation of the internet, for new kinds of economies and applications we haven't even dreamed of yet. They've solved the gridlock, the highway is finally wide open, and that leaves us with one incredibly exciting question. What new worlds are we going to build?